self-determination. So nobody tells us who we are. We say who we are. So we are those Gullah Geechee people.
Okay. All right. Let me start with something about this. How this nation is born? How this nation is born? How you born?
We were a nation when we were stolen from Africa and brought here.
So
we're still a nation when we got here.
Yes.
So we are a nation within a nation.
How you make that as a political institution? Because now I know the Charleston, South Carolina recognize the Gullah Geechee as a nation. I want to know how you make that transition, how you make that happen.
We made that happen. We installed Queen Quet, first chieftains of the Gullah Geechee Nation, on government property in 2000.
Yeah.
In 2000. And so we got the community together and we asked them, she was doing some work, I was doing some work, and we asked them if it was okay for us to get a petition, and we did. And people signed up, and we installed her on the same day that Dan Malvesi was executed. And Dan Malvesi is this hero that we celebrate every year and all the time. And he was one who was upset because his people were enslaved. So what he did is that he decided that he wanted to make sure that they wouldn't be enslaved. In 1822, they got together and they were going to make sure that their people was free. But he was caught and he was hung.
I want to get people to understand that insufficiency of the Gullah Geechee as a black nation, because when Hispanic people know about this, they mistake this for this other. There was a black intent to segregate some state as a black another nation. And
no, that's not what we didn't ask for that kind of autonomy. We gonna keep all our rights.
That nation, we're still that nation within
a nation inside the nation.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you are as American as black, or you are black over Americans?
We say Gullah Geechee though, because to me, by saying we're Gullah Geechee, we're always acknowledging our West African roots.
Yes, more roots or
West African.
Well, the question is simply West African roots or West African reality actually.
Reality,
our different ethnic groups. Because when some people think of Gullah Geechees, they hear like the name Mandingo. And then they come to think, oh, but we're not all just that one group. They are part of us. We are Ashanti, Fulani, Pele, Vai, Bassa. It's about maybe 17 to 20 different ethnic groups that came together. But since we spoke different languages, then we had to create a language where we could communicate. That's Gullah. That's the language where all of these different West African and from the Congo as well.
Yeah, Central Africa,
where we all came together.
That's one of the things that make it you more near to the Anglo-Caribbean.
To the Caribbean?
To the Caribbean, like or Trinidad.
Yeah.
It's more like that than the rest of America. That's why.
Yes, definitely. I'll tell you what. We have held on to our tradition. We have the highest retention of African tradition in America. And the next place is Brazil.
Really?
Yes. When you walk down the streets of Charleston, I say catch the bus, get the bus, on the bus, and you'll hear these tones. You think that you're somewhere in Africa or the Caribbean. We still cook the same food, some of the same foods that we cooked when we were in Africa. We call it red rice. They call it in Africa jolo.
How do you relate this to the rest of America?
You can answer that one. I think, to me, again, we've held on to our African tradition more than any other in the United States. Plus, we still speak some of our language. As the further out you move, like people migrated to New York and places like that, well, they had to assimilate. And when they assimilated, they took on other cultures more so than us who were here. And we were isolated by bridges, so we held on to who we are. And today we still do that. You still can hear the tones, mostly the tones here in Charleston, the Geechee tones, which is, Gullah is the language, the land, and the culture is the way I see it. And also, Geechee is the creolization, add more English words. to it, but we're all one people.
And you're going to hear Geechee more so if you're like downtown.
Yes.
That's where, yeah, because we had more interactions with the Europeans.
Yes, and this is a mainland, and this is a seaport city, so all kinds of people were coming in, and of course we had to be able to speak to those people. And the Gullah Geechee Nation, it goes from Cape Fear, North Carolina. Oh no, is it Cape Fear? Cape Fear, North Carolina, all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, and 30 to 30, and the island, 30 to 35
miles inland.
Yeah. And so along that coast, you'll more than likely see people doing the same thing we do. Fishing, hunting, holding on to the land. That's one of the things that we respect our ancestors, and we actually hold on to our land.
You are keeping the land.
We fight to keep it, because it's not easy.
It's always a challenge.
People don't understand how important it is to keep the land.
Yes. Definitely, that's our ancestors. Queen Quet said that. So that is our blood, and that's our blood and sweat and tears. Yeah. This is you sitting here now at an estate that my auntie left, and she died in 2019, and I'm working hard to keep it because she worked for this during the civil rights in 1958, where black folks didn't have a lot of money, but she took what she had. She and her husband from Eddystone. And they put it together, and they bought this in 1958. So that's an example of us holding on to the land.
Okay, one of the other problem that I didn't see the side of the problem was the gentrification.
Yeah.
As the movement of the people.
Right.
For white people, it could be something a problem or no, but for us, it's life.
It is. It really is. It is our life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Because we do a lot of things with the land. We plant the placenta in the yard. So the blood is really there.
Yes.
You do.
Yes. Yeah.
That was one of the traditions that we held on to.
Oh, you're looking.
Much of it we held on to it. My thing that I always tell the other Carly China, my challenge, because we're always making the connections about making sure that people know about who we are, because at first they were just saying we were just Africans. Okay, they spoke of Africa as if Africa was a country. It's not a country, it's a continent. Then they discovered that we're West Africans. My issue has been, I'll say for the last few years, if you know that we're West Africans, how did you miss our golden age? How did you miss the Ghana Empire? How did you miss the Hausa Empire? How did you miss the Yoruba Empire? How did you miss the Mali Empire? How did you miss the Songhai Empire? How did you miss the Benin Empire? From 300 to 1897. Civilization, that's why when we came here, how could these people do this? Because we've been doing that. We have over 1,000 years of civilization. The people that we brought here, we even had urban areas. So, this thing about still calling us slaves, no. We're the descendants. We have doctors, we have priests and priestesses. All of that, everything that makes a civilization, everything that makes a civilization, yes, all of that came here.
Talking about that, and this is important because I know the how important is Jamaican, for example, the Jamaican link. How we relate to the Ethiopian Empire? Are we in the
are we related to the?
How we take that?
Well, here through that, most of you find a lot of people here are Rastas.
The Rastas, yes.
Rastas, and they celebrate that.
But this is a separate group, or is part of the group?
They all Gullah Geechee. We don't ever deviate from that.
Okay.
We always Gullah Geechee, but we know we connected to the diaspora.
Yes,
and that's why we always try to work with people in the diaspora.
When you walk into a proper temple, and you recognize, here's my Haitian people, and then there's some Nigerians there, and because it's It's part of life now. Oh, we got some Congo. When you get down to Congo rhythms, that bass, then everybody can begin to recognize, oh, we have a similar foundation. That's why when you listen to Underneath Candomblé, what do you hear? Shango Baptist from Trinidad and Tobago, what do you hear? The Garifuna from Belize, what do you hear? Those out of Guyana and Suriname, what do you hear? Kumina in Jamaica, what do you hear? You hear the Congo. It's a unifying factor, yet it's hard when you have people who will say, like, if I were born here, but I wasn't born here, I'd say I'm American. I may not recognize the fact that I am of African descent. Politically, on a piece of paper, it says I am African American. Culturally, heritage and spirit, I am British born, of Jamaican parents, with a rich Jamaican heritage and culture that I was sent back to Jamaica to get a hold of. I went there from 7 to 14. And then I came back here. There I was daughter of, granddaughter of, cousin of, sister of. When I got back here at 13, I was told I was black. And then eventually the paperwork changed and I was African American. See, I was still black because I had a green card. Once I became a citizen, I was African American. But my spirit and my culture has not changed. I am Jamaican. It allows me to have a backbone in the midst of the whole story. It allows me to have a heritage. Otherwise, I'd be lost. Because how and where is it that this is my foundation? It's not. I've had to assimilate in certain areas. Recently there was something where folks were upset that in Jamaica, during the Independence Gala, Wade in the Water was being performed by a set of children. Why would they, matter of fact, why would they not? I would say that considering the fact, because now they have some DNA proof that's in there. Part of the 36 interred that they found Jamaican ancestry in there. So they know that they were here from back in the 1800s. I'm waiting to give them my tooth so they can go test and see if they can find something. But what had happened was, and I had the paragraph in a post yesterday, because I'm like that. When stuff gets on my head, then I gotta go research and I gotta have data to back it up, because they're not understanding the mixture and the blending. As they say in Jamaica, it's out of many one people, and that's because first peoples were there, Arawak and Taino. No, Columbus did not wipe them out. As time went on, Africans were brought in during the slave trade. They at times would become what? Maroons. Maroons are who? Maroons and Gullah Geechee are pretty much some of the same combinations of people. Because the boat didn't go straight from the continent of Africa to North America. There were some twists and turns in there, and at the same time you had the whole stock some places until it was called for in other places, which is how Barbados got to be the mother of Charleston. Because you're like, listen, I'm going to need some Bantu, I'm going to need some Sierra Leone, and I'm going to, no, hold up on the Igbo, leave them at the other side, and I'm going to need a little, you know, they wanted what they wanted because they had, what, rice, cotton, and indigo to grow. So they were particular in what they needed. Some of the other islands were not particular, they just needed labor.
That's what in Cuba, that's what's in Cuba. Because it was sugar cane, that is only strong people, what they needed, no special skill.
You know, they just needed labor. Once you start kicking that sugar, it was a whole different story. Worthy Plantation in Clarendon was founded the same year as Charleston, South Carolina, 1670. I'm standing in there in them cane rows, and we had just interviewed a 105-year-old lady whose job it was to cut the grass in between the cane. There's not much space in between them suckers. And I look at the sign. Hold up, you and Charleston were founded at the same time. But they were being specific in Charleston as to who they wanted. Jamaica was a whole different story. And here, see, there's a sentence in here that my brain keeps holding on to because it brings them all back to the same point. We've been flowing together since day one. It wasn't like, oh, we just got here and let everybody just be African. No. When you see some folks that literally say, oh, my grandmother, oh, I didn't know I was Jamaican. I heard that my grandfather was. Hold on, how long your grandfather been here? And how old are these people that we're talking about? Or people who are upstate, in the middle of the state, whose great-grandmothers and their sisters, everybody's like 98, 99, and 100, are in the middle of the state, but they've been here since they were 2. They're not looking at how migration went. They're not looking at it at all. They're just, oh, Lord, where'd it go? I know I had this information that was looked out on me. Either way, it had something to do with, and I know I have the PDF, about the redirection of the enslaved as they came through certain points. We know that, and one day, we know that Brazil has the majority of our family members. We know that if we take the time, windward, leeward, jump through, hop, skip, South America. Now everybody flocks to Colombia, but they keep overlooking Ecuador. Ecuador has a whole different type of purity. Ecuador and Cuba have a whole different type of relationship. Ecuador and Cuba, Ecuador is one of the places that Cubans could go with no problem. And Cuba was one of the places that Ecuadorians could go with no problem. Here's the key. It's a stretch along the Gullah Geechee corridor. Now, along the Gullah Geechee corridor, you're looking from, say, Jacksonville, Florida, Savannah, Georgia, and you come on through. Now, places like Port Royal, where that, you know, these are very integral spaces and places where the actual history was made. The key thing about Charleston is just that it had the port. It is where the ships came and left to. Now today the cargo is BMWs, but it's still a very active port. The entire stretch from Charleston through to North Charleston on the water is a very, very active port. It's never stopped. If anything, it's increased. The only thing we've stopped doing now is the cruise ships don't leave from here, but they'll still stop here. Is any day you can go down to the aquarium, look to the left, and look over at the wharf, and as far as your eye can see, all you see is BMWs. Trade still happens. Things still move through there. But for a good number of those who are, and we may use the term, I'll use their term if they want to use it, FDAs, foundational, is that it? FDA, Foundational African American, something in there. Let me not get caught up in their names. But those who know that, bam, this is where their root come from. This is where they claim they call from, where they were born. Because remember, you have someone out on various islands who, Africa, what's that? No, we started here. Whatever the name of this country is, and that's what we are. So you have many here who are that. But being here in this core, when you think of the massive amounts of great migrations, whether it's those who were simply running off during times of enslavement, those who ran away or were at that point free and left during emancipation, then as they went through various measures of indentured and sharecropping, there's those who then went through the machinery age, those from the Gullah Geechee territory, Gullah Geechee corridor, have gone and established the foundations all over America. They don't always come home. It's like other island nations. You go home for a good wedding, a good funeral, or a proper family reunion. Here down south, they may come home for a camp meeting. That's different. But folks don't always come home. You have many, as they may leave their migrant countries, saying, I'm never going back.
I know.
And you have those, it's funny enough, who say, I'm never going back. They're some of the ones who are most up to date on whatever news it is from that place that they're never going back to. Because it's in their heart.
That's true, but with me too.
And it's the same for those who are here. I ended up with 30 Facebook pages, not because I needed someplace to put all these pictures. I've been here that you go to things year after year, make it have its own page. There are things that happen here that only happen in the low country. They don't happen anywhere else. You're not going to find them anywhere else. The rhythms you're not going to find anywhere else. But you will find the similarities with their cousins across the diaspora.
El problema aquí no es de justicia social, sino que la cuestión Gullah Geechee es más profunda y más bella en su dramatismo, revelando la presión ontológica que ejerce la negritud en todo Occidente, más expresamente en la contradicción norteamericana por lo directa que es, pero revelándose entonces el carácter esquizoide de esta contracción occidental que vive negándose a sí misma y por lo tanto precipitándose a su propia decadencia, porque el único modo que tiene de redimirse es asumiendo esta otra parte de sí misma que retiene sus principios de determinación trascendente.